Hello, everyone, and welcome back to our ninth hour of 24 hours of Rare. And we're so glad that you could join us for this as we go around. And I want to introduce you to two people that I've come to know. I have known Siri for almost a year now. We met this last year, and I have just met Christopher, but I want to tell you a little bit about these two very special people and their organizations. First, I'll start with Siri Vaith. Siri has been involved, and she runs the Cfri organization, and that began soon after her daughter Tess was diagnosed with cystic fibrosis in 1995. And prior to joining Cfri staff, she served on the board of directors for 10 years. And Siri has a bachelor's in politics and social welfare. She brings many years of nonprofit experience to CFRI, including previous positions as executive director to Big Brothers Big Sisters of Santa Cruz County, nonprofit grant writer, and a Head Start social worker. In addition to Tess, Siri has a 21-year-old son. She lives in Santa Cruz, California. Siri, welcome. We're so glad to have you, and you're representing CFRI, and we're working with you this last year. CFRI is just you're an amazing organization. I also want to introduce Christopher Valona. He is the CEO for both CSG Consulting and Project Sebastian, a private nonprofit raising money and awareness for a fatal and curable childhood illness called Batten disease. 2011, Christopher's oldest son, Sebastian, was diagnosed with Batten's disease, and since that time, Christopher has spent 10 years creating a presence in the Cannondale world in an effort to reduce symptoms Sebastian was experiencing. As a dedicated father, he has relentlessly researched and partnered up with some of the most cutting-edge doctors and researchers in the medical field. Christopher's focus is passion on finding a cure for Batten's disease. The key to positive thought processes to my situation. Group counseling is very effective in this regard in all areas. Due to the painful experience, Christopher created CSG Consulting to help families navigate through the bureaucratic and complicated system. Christopher has emerged as an expert in assisting families who experience childhood illness in addition to utilization of cannabinoid products as address symptoms related to childhood illness and everyday life use. Educating, researching, and consulting with families is a priority that will remain his life's work. Welcome, Christopher. We're glad to have you for Project Sebastian. So with that, Siri, you are the floor is yours, and looking forward to seeing your presentation.
Thank you so much, Jeff and Christopher. It's an honor to be here with you and everybody who's with us today. Happy Rare Disease Day. It is such an honor to be here and help hold down with my partner Christopher this noon leg of the 24 hours of Rare for the West Coast. I am right now in Northern California, where CFRI's office is located. And as most people know, California is huge. We are a very large state. We have around 40 million people. So if you think about the impact of rare disease in our state, knowing that about 1 in 10 people live with a rare disease, that means that here in our state, 4 million people are living with a rare disease. And obviously, we know the impact goes far beyond the person who is impacted. So, and of these diseases, rare diseases, one is cystic fibrosis, which I'm going to share a bit with you. I'm about to launch my slides. One thing I want to share, hopefully people will learn more about CF, people will learn more about what CFRI does, but we work so closely with so many rare disease partners, and I'm just hoping that people can glean things from what we do, and conversely, that we are always learning from one another. I'm looking forward to hearing from Christopher and about his amazing work. So with that, I'm going to launch my slides, so please bear with me that this works. I think it's working. Can everybody see? I can't see a thumbs up anymore. I have disappeared from the screen, so I'm hoping everybody can hear, and if not, somebody will tell me. So here is CFRI's mission statement. And the key takeaway from here is that we basically have 4 legs on our chair. We pursue research for a cure, education programs for the community. We advocate relentlessly, and we are very, very committed to providing psychosocial support. So CF is a rare disease. We're kind of a loud community, so a lot of people think there are more people impacted in the country than there are. There are about 31,000 people in the United States diagnosed with cystic fibrosis. The number that's thrown out there worldwide is 80,000 people, but we know that is just grossly undercounted because there's such a lack of testing in so many countries. In the United States, 1 out of 31 people is a symptomless carrier of the CF gene. I obviously, with a daughter with CF, am a carrier. There was no history in our family prior to my daughter's diagnosis, but it really varies in terms of carrier status around the globe. So if you are in Ireland, 1 in 19 or 20 people is a carrier. It's much more common there. So it does vary where you are located. But having said that, it does impact all ethnicities. Pretty much no one is left unscathed by this. So as a community, we've been very, very, very fortunate to have advances in drug therapies that have extended life expectancy. But these new drugs, they're CFTR modulators, not everyone can take them because of the specific CF mutations. And unfortunately, last year, half of those who died from complications of CF were under the age of 31. So as was shared, my work is incredibly personal for me. My daughter Tess was diagnosed in 1995. California, of course, now, as does every state in the US, has CF on the newborn screening panel. But this was, of course, many years before that. And while we were lucky that our diagnostic journey, I know for many people in the rare disease community, it goes on for years. She was diagnosed at the age of 5 months. But those were 5 long, hard months when I was very worried my baby was going to die. And I will say that when she was 5 months old, she still weighed, 9 pounds something. She could not reach 10 pounds. And it wasn't until she developed pneumonia at 5 months that somebody thought to do the sweat chloride test that led to her diagnosis. Of course, it's very personal, but once you engage in your community, it becomes so much bigger than that. So CFRI's programs, we won't belabor this. This is just my, shameless way of working in the beautiful Golden Gate Bridge. But I will talk more about these programs in a moment. But the first thing we do fund is research. And since 1977, CFRI has funded over 300 CF research projects. And I really should back up because I know there are so many rare disease groups that are starting, they're in their infancy. And CFRI was founded in 1975 by a group of parents who kind of broke off from the larger foundation because they really wanted to control their funds for research. And so they, at the time, were located in Palo Alto. There we are right next to Stanford. That launched it. But through the years, we have now expanded funding. We fund projects all across the country. And I threw this photo in here just because if anybody's watching this who is in the field of CF, they're going to know that some incredible movers and shakers in the field of CF are in this photo. All these people are part of our research programs. So next, education. We have lots of different education programs. For me, I found CFRI through its education conference. Tess had just been diagnosed. I was in clinic. I was so shell-shocked. And CF is a very complex disease. It's most known for causing progressive lung damage and respiratory failure. In fact, that's why most people die from CF is respiratory failure. But it is a multi-organ, multi-systemic disease. So it was like being at boot camp, all the things I had to do every day for hours every day for my daughter's health. And I saw this flyer for a CFRI conference and went to it. And it was like I'd walked through the magic doors. I found my tribe. I found my community. I learned all this information, and CFRI really became a home. So this is the flyer for this year's conference. We already have people signed up from Iceland and New Zealand. So if anybody's interested, it's free, and I invite you to join us. We also have a thriving podcast program covering everything from the day-to-day lives of people living with CF and interesting careers people have pursued despite the challenges they face with CF, to going to the labs of CF researchers and interviewing them, or addressing issues that are impacting people with CF, and bone disease, sinus disease, liver disease. And I would say this podcast program has been so key during this past year with this horrific pandemic. And we have had, I'm losing count now, but I think we've had about 14 podcasts with Dr. Rick Moss, who's just a preeminent CF pulmonologist, specific to CF and COVID-19. And this was a more recent one on the vaccines with the rollout. So a moment to pause, and this is not just about CF, this is about everyone who lives in the rare disease realm. Just sometimes we're so busy surviving and caring and advocating and researching and doing all these things. We just need to step back for a moment and acknowledge most rare diseases are chronic, and that means chronic. There's no relief from it. That the disease impacts the person who's diagnosed, and it impacts the entire family system. That medical care is always complex and incredibly expensive. There's never a day off, and that mental health absolutely impacts physical health. And in fact, we know, well, we all know, if anybody lives with a disease or is parent to somebody with a disease or loves somebody, you know how stressful that is. But there was a large international study of 10,000 people living with CF and their caregivers. And no surprise to any of us, the rates of depression and anxiety were 2 to 3 times those of the general population. And for me as a mother, no surprise, the people with the highest level of anxiety were parents, and were mothers. And of course, I look at this and I think about what I've watched my daughter go through all these years. It's no wonder, it's hard. So Cfri has really expanded over the past few years its psychosocial support programs and our wellness programs. So prior to COVID, because of cross-infection issues, which I won't go into, but it's very hard for people with CF to be together anyway because of this likelihood of passing very opportunistic infections back and forth. So COVID, actually, we were kind of hardwired for that as a community. We were all about Zoom long before COVID because we've had online support groups. We have had online mindfulness classes, online bereavement support, because quite sadly we have lost so many members of our community. But we also have online yoga and strength building. And then another really like the jewel in the crown for us is we support counseling services. We know it's really hard for a lot of people to access mental health services. And so we fund counseling in people's communities, and it's been really, really important. So support groups, we now have every other week support groups for the CF community about COVID. And then we also offer these retreats, which were in person before. Of course, last year, this year are virtual, but we have a retreat for adults with CF and their loved ones. And then we have a retreat every year for mothers of kids with CF, and people fly in from all around the country to join us. And so now the final fourth leg on our chair is advocacy. And we all know in the rare disease community, each one of us, our disease groups impact so few people that we really need to work together, and we need to have one loud, strong voice. And so at Cfri, we're keenly aware of challenges around newborn screening, genetic sequencing, access to therapy, standards of care. And we're really proud that we work with lots of coalitions through NORD, Global Genes, Everyday Life Foundation, and the Rare Disease Legislative Advocates. We're part of the American Thoracic Society's Public Advisory Roundtable. We do action alerts. We set up meetings with elected representatives. We do awareness days. And really, our activities became so important with COVID because we just had to go into warp speed, advocacy on steroids, because so many things came up that who knew that so many state emergency plans would have discriminatory wording in which people with sometimes specifically cystic fibrosis, sometimes about lung function, were deprioritized if there was a shortage of ventilators. They were deprioritized specifically in these plans if there was a shortage of ICU beds. We never would have known this, but then we had a pandemic. Extended family leave for people, but we're also really involved with working against copay accumulators, which are burdening financially many, many members of the rare disease community. We're working tirelessly on vaccine prioritization, just because people with rare diseases are getting left off the list of people who are prioritized. So we have a lot to do. And then the final thing is helping to establish rare disease advisory councils in every state in the country. And we're moving legislation forward right now in California, SB 247, that we are hoping will pass. So with that, hopefully people will reach out. Again, you may not be in the CF realm, but we can learn from one another. I'd love to connect with people. Here's our email and also our website. And with that, I'm going to stop sharing my screen. And I think Jeff is kindly going to launch a brief video where it just brings visually more things to life that I just discussed. Thanks, Jeff.
Cfri was founded in 1975, and originally the focus was solely on research, but it very quickly evolved to become a place of community. Over the past decades, we have grown tremendously, and of course we're still focused on research, but we have thriving education, psychosocial support, and advocacy programs to help support our incredible community.
Cfri provides seed funding for promising ideas in new lines of basic research. The thing with research is once you answer a question, 10 more appear. And so it's like there's never an end to the depth you can go in understanding the human body and its interaction with bacteria. The regular educational opportunities that Cfri offers are so important to help families, clinicians, and researchers keep up to date with the latest and the greatest in the CF world and ultimately ensure their loved ones and patients can take full advantage of the progress that's being made. What sets Cfri apart in providing access to vital education is the intimacy and sense of community that runs throughout the educational experience. Whether you're new to CF or a veteran, you'll be welcomed with open arms and provide support and a sense of hope.
The benefits and healing power of many of the offerings from Cfri, I have had the privilege and opportunity to experience firsthand. And what I have noticed about the different offerings is they are all designed to support our overall well-being, and that includes our physical, mental, and in some cases our spiritual well-being.
What it means to me to be able to take part in advocating for cystic fibrosis is meeting the responsibility and duty that I feel as a CF patient to my community. As someone without a science background, there's a lot of development around CF that I'm not able to take part in. But through my partnership with Cfri, we've been able to do some incredible work advocating for state legislation and federal legislation to improve the quality of lives of CF patients nationwide.
We're excited about where we've been and how far we've come, and even more excited about where we're going. It is our honor to serve the CF community, and we want to connect with you. Visit our website for ways you can participate in our programs to support you on your journey, and join us as we continue on our way to better the lives for all those in the CF community as we work towards a cure for cystic fibrosis.
Thank you, Jeff. And what's funny about that is I wanted the film because people were moving, but I think because of internet issues, it was just a series of photos instead of films, but that's okay. So I'm so grateful to the organizers of 24 Hours of Rare to be a part of this on kicking off Rare Disease Week. And I will stick around to the end, but right now I am really honored to pass the baton to my friend Christopher, who's down in Los Angeles. So Christopher, welcome.
Thank you, Siri, for that awesome presentation. And have really had no idea how much was going on in that rare disease, to be honest with you. Been a little bit busy in my own rare disease of the world. I would definitely be checking out everything that you are trying to make awareness happen. And thank you, Jeff, for inviting me to such an amazing event. Once again, my name is Christopher Vallone. I'm the director at Project Sebastian here in Los Angeles, California. We're a local 501c3 charity in a little town called Santa Clarita by Magic Mountain. And I'm the proud father of 2 young boys. My youngest, Gage, who is going to be 16 this summer, who's just awesome. And of course, the namesake of the charity Project Sebastian, who will be turning 18 this summer as well, and who's been living with Batten disease all of his life. So that's just a little bit of background. What I'd like to do is just to kind of go into some facts about what Batten disease is, because like a lot of you watching all of these different types of rare disease, over 6,000, I believe, currently in this world, you probably never heard of Batten disease, and I didn't either until I had to actually look at it. So a lot of people ask me, what is Batten disease? I don't understand it. So I'm just going to kind of give you some scientific background, and I'm going to give you at the end my own rendition of what it's like to be a dad. So bear with me. It's just a lot of jargon here. I'll probably get it wrong. It's hard to. Anyway, Batten disease, or neuronal ceroid lipofuscinosis, or NCLs. Sorry to the scientists, I butchered that. We have 14 knowns of this degree of this disease, and the progressions of the different forms of the disease vary from different type to type. The type of genetic mutation also determines these types of factors. Each form is classified by the gene that causes the disorder, and each gene is called the CLNs, and they're designated by a different number. So if you're looking at projectsebastian.org and you see CLN8, that is Sebastian's mutation, the number 8. And these disorders generally include a combination of different variables such as vision loss, epilepsy, and dementia, and often these variants are sharing all of these horrible different types of diagnosis. So a lot of people ask me, what's the best way to describe it? For me, until I get a different analogy, it's kind of like ALS for children. So every year, hundreds of children and their families cope with the diagnosis of Batten disease, and we're there for them because we know that we need to bring the strength and the courage and the commitment to help them. This is such a rare neurodegenerative disorder, and it's inherited. So a lot of people don't understand. So it's inherited genetic material from the parents, and it's given to the children. Now, as a healthy human being, I didn't know I was a Batten disease carrier, and I didn't know that the woman that I married was also a Batten disease carrier, because you don't think to get a genetic testing when you're having children. You get the basic testing, blood work is done, and you just, because no one knows about it, so you don't test for it. So unfortunately, Sebastian was born with Batten disease, CLN8. And unfortunately, we didn't really have anything to go on. We didn't know about it. We didn't know where to go. And this was after being misdiagnosed for many years under the banner of epilepsy. So one of the things about this disease, as in rare disease in general, these horrible diseases are often misdiagnosed. They have these characteristics of other diseases where the scientific community pretty much labeled that, and unfortunately they got it wrong with Sebastian. No fault of their own, that we just didn't test for it, we just didn't know about it. But after a while, it just wasn't, seizures. It was loss of words and balance and eyesight and cognitive, and not being able to do the normal things that a kid was doing. I mean, my son was playing baseball and running bases and playing catch and talking, and just never stopped running. And all of a sudden, those things started to become less and less and less. So we knew that we knew there was something else, and so we pushed for genetic testing. And it's incredible to find that people don't know about it, and you're going to these people and they don't know about it, and they're the professionals, and it's really scary. So what do? You start searching around, and you start looking at other foundations and other people that are in this arena. And it's been truly a blessing when we found a lot of people that were actually kind of like us, going through the same things, and not just in Batten disease, but other rare disease families. So a lot of people also wanted to know, why does it happen? What causes Batten? It's really nobody's fault. It's nothing you did. It's nothing that your family, your parents did. It's just an inherited genetic disorder. And these affect the function of the tiny bodies within the cells called lysosomes. And these are the recycling bin, and the cells regularly break down the waste and proteins that are naturally occurring in the brain. And in Batten disease world, they don't have that ability anymore. So it attacks the brain. And it's very, very sad, because it's a very quick and destructive process to watch your child slowly not be able to do the normal things that your friends' children are doing, and you just have to wait until there's some sort of a treatment. And let me tell you, there's not a whole lot of treatments out there, and there's not a cure. It's unfortunate that this disease is fatal. Today, it is still fatal. And the biggest problem we have is time. Time is the enemy. It's very frustrating. So how rare is this? People always ask that, how rare is that? We never heard about it. Well, it's not known today how many people have Batten disease, but some people would estimate that it's 1 in 12,000 people. 2 out of every 4, 100,000 children being born. So 2 out of every 4 of 100,000. Many more individuals can be carriers. Many more may have the defective gene that they don't know about. So the numbers are still coming in, and that's because we keep creating more and more awareness. So a lot of these people say, well, why didn't you know? And the diagnosis, where was that at? We didn't think to get a DNA test. He was having epilepsy. We'd take pills for the rest of our life. We were cool with it. But as we later found out, that wasn't it. You can get a DNA test. You can get measurement of enzyme activities. You can get blood and urine tests. You can do skin tissue sampling. You can get EEG monitors for the brain using electrodes. You can get the study of the eyes. The eyes are telling us a lot about this horrible thing. MRIs and CT scans. I mean, the lists are so much more than what it was when we first got the proper diagnosis back in 2016. So is there a treatment? There is no specific treatment known currently to cause any of the reverse of the damage that's done by this horrible disease in any variant. The only thing that's out there right now is for other CNL2, which is called ERT, which is enzyme replacement therapy, created by a company called Bernera, that has been shown to slow the effect of the progression of these symptoms, where these children now have a longer lifespan in hopes that we can get to a cure. So there is some science moving. It's great. If you want to find out about what current research is being done, I suggest you go to the National Institute of Neurological Disorders, as well as the NIH. They're conducting constant research and different plans of treatment to measure how and when we should attack these symptoms. So there's so much research going on than what there was, and I'm extremely grateful to constantly be a part of these groups and these discussions. And it's just sad. It's still, we're here, we're fighting, and we're supporting one another, but sorry, I get worked up. Wouldn't you? So now what? Well, there's no cure. Time is the essence. Everyone is diagnosed that doesn't know how much more time they have to live, and this is a horrible disease. It begins with blindness, loss of speech, loss of body movement. Eventually, the body begins to deteriorate, and all the muscles in the body, they're gone. One of the hopes today is gene therapy replacement. It's been shown to stop the progression of this disease, but not every child is able to get to that point. Not every child is allowed to have that opportunity. And it's unfortunate, but that's what we got going on. And we're trying to get Sebastian to gene therapy replacement to stop the progression of this disease so that we can continue to fight for a cure. Awareness is so necessary. Being in groups like this or talking to people, it's just extremely important. Another part of this problem, as in any rare disease, it costs a tremendous amount of money to even begin a foundation or a treatment or to rally for a cure. It's so very hard. Siri said it best. There are no days off in these rare disease categories. There's just no days off. It's just constant, work, help, rehab. And then rest is like, maybe an hour or two a day. It's relentless. You can't stop because the disease doesn't stop. And that's just the truth. So we need people like you to help us fight. We need more awareness. We need more research. We need more money. This is all vital for the success of any cure. We need prayers. We need hope. I'll give you a couple of tips on how I do it. Physical therapies, working out, has been shown to be a tremendous time saver in the destructive of this disease, meaning that we're able to continue to walk, we're able to speak, we're able to do simple things, fine motor skills. These things are all coming back by just a series of different types of therapies. Physical therapy, of course, is one. Another one is using holistic type of measures. Find some people outside of the scope, if you can, to talk to you about electronic types of machines that stimulate the muscles. I'm going to give you two of the things that have helped Sebastian walk and run today where he wasn't able to before. Now, a few of you are watching, may have been following our foundation for a while, and you've seen the change from where he couldn't walk to where he's running. And this was from a couple of machines. One of it is called the PEMF bed, which is pulse electromagnetic frequency, where it sends out these pulses to the body, laying on a bed, which repairs the damaged cells that are able to remove the toxins from the body and actually regenerate new cells to continue the process. We do that a couple times a week. You can find that in your local therapy, or if you want to contact me, I'll direct you to a PMF bed anywhere in the US. Another great thing was the Newbie made by NewFit. And this is called electronic stimulation by mapping the body to stimulate neurologically the areas that need to be repaired. I know it sounds crazy, but when we have these therapies for Sebastian and other people we've told him about it, we found out about it from another child in Texas. So this is the amazing work that these doctors are presenting for our kids. They're actually helping us walk. They're helping them talk better. They're helping them do things. Fine motor skills are starting to come back. But it's got to be a consistent process. It's not a one and done. And that's the fight. That's the fight. We have to keep fighting. I would also implore you to search around to other family foundations in your rare disease category and call them and introduce yourself and say, hey, I need help. I need help. I did it. You can do it too. Had Kristen and Gordon not picked up that call, I don't know where I would be today. They are the people that had spearheaded gene therapy replacement for CNL6. The Charlotte and Gwyneth Family Foundation. Those two people helped me. They held my hand. They told me it was going to be okay, but you had to get to work. You had to go to work. You had to fight. And we have. And we've become such a force in this community, and we are continually growing and by leaps and bounds. How do we do that? We do that through awareness. We do that through local government. Bake sales and car washes only get us so far. It's hard. We need friends in high places in government, so we turn to government. So Project Sebastian is basically working with leaders in the community today, such as our senators and our local congressmen, in an effort to bring it, to actually give you a bipartisan effort, creating California's first ever Batten Disease Awareness Weekend in June. It's amazing. It's amazing. You know, creating awareness for your state is just the first step. We got to create the awareness for the rest of the world. We got to keep pushing for more fundraising. We have to keep going through Congress and asking for more money for Batten disease research for these kids. And yes, I too have a podcast. Everybody's got a podcast. That's great. I love podcasting. We talk and we share and we cry and we get angry. You can find me on the Connections with Purpose podcast, where we interview families just like series about the trials and the tribulations of going through your rare disease on a daily basis. And then we get, you know, tips and tricks. We get contacts. We get information that we're, you know, going to use, hopefully. All I got to say is that I'm extremely grateful for my life today. I do my days just like everybody else that's listening, one day at a time. It's the only thing you can do, one day at a time. I woke up today. I'm grateful. I get another chance to fight for my kids. We are their advocates. We are their voice. We have to keep pushing. We must. And even if people say that it's not for nothing, your child's going to die, that's okay. You have an opinion. But the things we're doing right now will help children in the future. I guarantee it. Not every one of our children are going to make it. They will die. But just think what we will do for the others. And who knows? Maybe there will be a cure within our children's lifespan and they will be saved. So it's up to you to do your part and to help all of rare disease spread its awareness. Reach out. Talk to me. Talk to professionals. We're currently working with nationwide children's centers in Ohio. Sanford Research Group. There was a person on a panel today working with the CORDS program. It's such an amazing, doing natural history studies for your disease so that people can actually share, which has been my motto. God, I want to share everything. You know, help another family achieve some sort new level, to level up and to help them stay relevant and not feel like they've just lost everything. We're stronger in numbers. And it's because I reached out to Jeff saying, hey, I like this idea. Can I join? He said, sure. It was that simple. And here I am spreading my awareness about Batten disease. Batten disease families need your voice. They need your support. And I do too. So if you have any questions, you want to reach out to me, info@projectsebastian.org. Just send me a line. I'll respond. I respond to every email I get. So with that, I'm kind of like exhausted. So thank you both for inviting me to this amazing talk today. I hope you learned a little bit about Batten disease, and I hope you reach out, and I hope that you follow me the rest of the week, because I'm going to be doing a dad's panel on Tuesday at 9 a.m. And we're going to talk to some other dads, and we're going to talk more in depth about Batten disease and how we can all collaborate and how we can all just support one another. We need to support each other. This is a tough thing. And without communication, it just gets worse. So with that, I thank you. Thank you all for listening.
All right, Christopher and Siri. Christopher, you had sent a video over. I want to play that real quick for everyone to see. So hold on tight with me. All right. I don't know that there's a dry eye in the audience right now. Christopher, thank you so much. Christopher, there was a question that came in from Teresa and says, does your son still have seizures? We were told we could not use PEMF because of them. We have access to it weekly, but he does not use it.
Great question. Sorry, that video was made by one of my board members for our last event. It was just awesome. Yeah, I have heard that some of the PMF type beds would possibly cause a seizure, but there is no data to prove that at this point. We talked to professionals. We actually talked to the actual companies that own these. We talked to the designers that actually did that. So far, there has not been any reports of a seizure while on that bed, but it doesn't mean it won't happen. Every child is different. Every case is different. So I say you try and see what happens. I'm not telling you to disregard medical advice at all. Your case is different than my case. Sebastian still has seizures, yes, but they're not as frequent as they once were, using different types of therapies, going to a CBD product, lowering pharmaceutical intake, which has been extremely helpful in his health and overall well-being. But obviously, I always say, please contact your medical provider and listen to your doctor. Not everybody has the answer, but I would suggest, having a group conscious on it and seeing what's in the best interest of your child to see what can happen, for sure.
All right, thank you. And then Siri, I'd like to put this one to you, because with this, how hard is it to partner when there is more than one organization dedicated to your diagnosis group?
What a great question. Cfri, as I said, starting at the very beginning, really the Cystic Fibrosis Foundation was the be-all, the lone ranger. And thank goodness for the foundation. In many ways, it's been a leader in rare disease and having a registry, creating standards of care. It's a phenomenal organization. But as I like to say, we all can go to Costco and we can get our tires and our glasses and our groceries and our clothing, but that's not the only place we want to shop. And that sounds like just a very crude metaphor, but I really do see like the foundation is so incredibly important. But again, what we are all needing is to find a way and a place where we can engage, where we feel like our efforts mean something, where we find our community. And so we're really fortunate at CFRI that we are part of the Cystic Fibrosis Engagement Network. And there are about 5 other organizations besides our own: the Boomer Esiason Foundation, the RockCF Foundation, Emily's Entourage, CF Lifestyle Foundation. Did I say the RockCF Foundation? I'm forgetting who have I left? Monell Foundation. And the great thing is we all do different things. We have, crossover, obviously, of people. I know there are people who are very involved with the foundation and very involved with CFRI. The key is, I think, we are all stronger together. We find ways in which to, we do different things, but we promote one another. And that includes promoting each other's fundraisers. Because again, we need money, whether it goes to CFRI, whether it goes to another CF organization. We're all focused on one thing. It's trying to end the suffering of our loved ones, to find a cure for this disease that is still fatal, that still has no cure. And so I think that the best way for organizations is to find, because I do know in many rare disease spaces, these smaller groups do form. And I think communication is key, and that it isn't a sense of like a turf war. It's about how do we open up and bring in as many people from our community who are impacted by this disease. But as Christopher so eloquently said, we need everybody. We need people who don't have a loved one with Batten's disease or cystic fibrosis to care and to help move this forward and take part in advocacy and donate money and make connections. And so the more these groups in the same disease group come together, the more that's going to happen. Everybody's going to be firing on every synapse is going to be launching. I hope that answered that question. And I would say just the key thing, communication, reach out to one another. And I just have to say personally, Christopher, it's been just such an honor to share this morning and this presentation with you. I have learned so much, and I was crying with you. It's the ache and the fear. And, you know, what you said, you can't stop because the disease doesn't stop. And that is what everybody here feels that is pushing forward. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you both. I do have a question for both of you, and don't care who goes first. And it's kind of it's kind of what's been happening with some of the trends out there. But what do you see as the future of social media networking with your group? Do you stay on something like Facebook, or do you move to more of a private, independent platform type of a thing? You know, everybody's got an opinion about that right now. So there's no wrong answer here. So, Sari, would you like to go first? Ladies first.
Well, I don't know about that. And am I a lady? My response is every platform you can have some presence on, have a presence. And, you know, it's so interesting because we actually do have a social media associate, a part-time staff who really does track everything. It's of course, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, just quite frankly, we want to start a TikTok trend for CF. And it's funny because somebody once said to me, because we also every week we send out an e-newsletter. I didn't say that when I was talking before, but every week we send out 15,000 emails, and it's got the latest research studies, clinical trials people can join, what events we're hosting, the latest yoga class. And so we reach a lot of people, and somebody said to me, well, nobody does email anymore. I'm like, yeah, they do. Like I do. Of course, I'm old, but I do. And the key is whatever way you can reach people, if you have the capacity to use multiple platforms, do it, go for it. And because we have found in our organization that we have a whole cluster of people who are on our social media, and then this whole cluster of people who do email, and there's, you know, the circle where they cross over. But they are kind of distinct groups. So it's all about outreach. Christopher, do you have something more enlightened to share?
I'm gonna give some love to another rare disease because that follows along the lines with the topic of TikTok. Sanfilippo disease. A friend of mine, Jennifer Sandcar, has just taken to TikTok to bring awareness about her son Carter, and her handle is I'm Miss Nesbit. If you follow along for Toy Story, you'll understand that. So, and the videos are really well done. She is extremely, she's just such a force. She's funny, she's charismatic, she's beautiful, and she talks about this disease that has just kind of gotten a hold of her son. And I agree. Any platform you can get traction on, to keep doing that, to keep trying. You know, I was just introduced to the new platform, the podcast platform. Oh my God, it escapes my mind. Sorry.
Well, was it Clubhouse? Is that the one?
Yes, Clubhouse. And
Yeah.
I've been learning that. I just created my profile. I'm just learning and listening to all these great speakers. But, you know, any platform, I totally echo Sari here. Any platform you can get on to raise awareness, to raise money, go ahead and do that. And ask those people if you can just, the people that have all these followers, just reach out and say, hey, how do I create that presence? How do I build that audience? They'll be happy to share it with you, because the more awareness and the more likes that they get, the more followers, the more people that are listening and tuning in. And if you can, find somebody that is actually controls that conversation, a celebrity, somebody who's an influencer, if you will, for your rare disease category, because that helps so much about actually people will tune in and listen. But we are just one of the youngest foundations out there in the area of Batten disease. We're home-based, homegrown. We're out there fighting, knocking on doors and stuff like that. And hopefully we'll get to that stature, such as you, Siri, one day, where we can bring awareness like you have. So I'm honored to be on the stage with you, my friends, and I'm honored to be here. So I hope that we can continue the conversation.
Oh, absolutely. You have a friend for life, buddy. Because I may be moderating this session here, but it's a very personal things we have with it. So let's see. Christopher, Teresa reached out to you again. I'm going to send this to you via email, and maybe the two of you can connect with it, asking about if there's any data you can share that you've collected about the medication that she can share with her medical provider.
Sure.
And
is she suffering from Batten disease herself, her family?
I think her child is. Yeah, she was the one that asked the question a while ago about the seizures.
Right.
So her name is Teresa Sweeney. And actually in the platform, if you want to go out to people and the two of you connect up, you could actually talk out there. Teresa, if you want to connect up with Christopher, you can in the platform here in just a little bit.
Cool. I'll be happy to.
All right. Thank you. Thank you both. Just amazing individuals, and the connections that we make, and the miles apart don't seem so far. Whenever we have these kind of conversations, we really appreciate everything that you all are doing in the rare disease community, and the outreach and the awareness and the battles that we fight and carry on with, the advocacy, for it, the champions that you are. So thank you both. Thank you, everyone. And at the top of the hour, again, thank you, Siri from CFRI, and thank you, Christopher from Project Sebastian. Really appreciate you all so much. At the top of the hour, we have Alagille syndrome that's going to be presenting, and they have it going on here at the 4 o'clock hour. So hope everyone can join in and watch that presentation as well. Thank you all again.
Bye. Thank you, everybody.